Third word in, I'm Rabbi Yaina.
Truth is, we really should start from the bottom, dollar and Aleph, I guess.
In this case, what do we want?
I thought they were coming in. Okay, let's go. Let's start from the bottom, dollar and Aleph. Start from the two dots, just the chazer over. It says, "Imishrishu kodem Omer matir." If the grain took root before the Omer permits it. Now, the thing is that the Gra adds the words here, but you're not allowed to cut it down until you you're not allowed to cut down any grain before the Omer is brought, or that's going to be actually machlokas. Rabbi Yonah Amar Kod should be kodem l'ktsira. 1 out of 2. Where's Meir? Okay. It's okay. We all know what you're responsible. So I'm just going to chaz and go over stuff from yesterday. Rabbi Yonah Amar Kodem l'ktsira. We're at the bottom of Daled Amrav. Rabbi Yonah Amar Kodem l'ktsira. Rabbi Yonah says before harvesting the Omer, one is forbidden to harvest any other grain. Rabbi Yossi Amar Kodem l'hava. It has to be before the. It has to be before the hava. In other words, before the Omer is brought, you're still not allowed to harvest the new crop. Rabbi Yonah said, hava. Almost at the bottom. 1 page. Rabbi Yonah hava materes lava. Bringing of the korban omer allows one to bring menachos from the new crop. Kitsira, the harvesting of the korban omer, ktsira allows you to harvest the new crop. Now, Rabbi Yossi said it should be here, instead of saying kitsira, it should be hava. Hava materes hava ktsira. You're only allowed to bring and to harvest the new crop once you have brought the korban omer. Rabbi Yossi chavei. And accordingly, Rabbi Yossi used to say about this, how can you possibly allow harvesting a new crop before you brought the korban omer? If you harvested the korban omer, which is for the multitudes, then it became tamei. So then, what are you going to say? That you're no longer allowed to harvest for private use? Well, you've already all harvested. If you're going to say that people are going to be allowed to harvest right after they harvest the Omer, so people are going to already have harvested everything previously, and now when the Omer becomes Tamei, retroactively they will have transgressed the prohibition. That's not a tolerable situation. So if Rabbi Yossi says you can't harvest new crop until after you've actually brought the korban over in the immortal spirit of it ain't over till it's over. Okay, until it's done you can't harvest. Rabbi Yonah says you can't harvest prior to the harvest of korban omer. Once korban omer is harvested, you can harvest any other grain. Rabbi Yossi says you can't harvest before you bring the korban omer. Okay, now the truth is I just translated that line wrong. Sorry. Rabbi Yonah Amar Kodem l'ktsira means you can in order for a crop to be permitted with korban omer, it has to take root before the korban omer is harvested. Rabbi Yossi Amar can even take root after the korban omer is harvested, as long as it takes root kodem lava prior to the korban omer being brought. Okay. Rabbi Yonah said, "Mil say the kana Messiah li." The following statement of Rav Kahana is a proof to me that it goes by when the korban omer is cut, not when it's brought. How so? The Amar Kahana says, "Im takriv minchas bikurim laHashem." If you bring the first korban of the year, it's called bikurim, the korban omer, because the first korban new year to God. So Rav Kahana doesn't like that language. Zu bikra acheres lo bikra. What this is the only one which is already first fruits. No, none of the other stuff is first fruit. Everything is grown already. Hagatzmecha. Analyze this matter. Think about it even further. Afilu asavim. Even grasses. Afilu ashrasha. Even stuff which is not even grass. Even stuff which just took roots till now. Homer ba'amati. The Omer comes and permits them, right? Omer permits everything. So what does it mean this is Bikurim? Bikurim sounds like this is mamish the first thing. And nothing else is yet ripe. Nothing else is even yet growing properly. It's not true. Whatever is growing now at the time that the Omer is brought becomes mutter through the Omer. So it says the Gemara, avelo kodem must be velo kodem katsira on kayomin. You know what we must be talking about? We must be talking about the harvesting. In what sense is the Korban Omer Bikurim? It's talking about it's the first to be harvested. You all have to harvest, bring home, so to speak, the Korban Omer's grain first. So this we learn that the Korban Omer is harvested first. It's harvested first. Seems to indicate that once the Korban Omer is harvested, you continue to harvest other stuff. Because this is the first among many harvests. It's Bikurim in the harvest. That says Rabbi Yoina implicates that I'm correct, meaning that when are you allowed to harvest all the other grain? Once you've harvested the Omer grain, everything else falls into place afterwards. So therefore he says that it's the harvest of the Omer grain which allows you to harvest everything else, not the bringing of the Omer Korban, which is a later stage. V'od min hador. And it says, I'll bring you another proof. The Tani we learned, Hamanake, somebody who hoed, weeded, actually, be more correct. B'shlosha on the 13th day of Nisan, the nitla shakach biyado, and inadvertently a good stalk got severed in his hand. You replanted in a muddy area, but not in a dry area. Why do you want to replant? Because you wanted to take root before the Korban Omer. Because it only takes root after the Korban Omer, re-rooted, then it's not going to become mutter till next year, right? So you desperately need it to be re-rooted before the Omer is brought, right? So plant it in a muddy place. Now, under these circumstances, there are here all told, let's see, the Rash Tiruleo takes out 13. Yeshkan Arbasar, take out the Shloshasar. You have Arbasar, the Chamishasar, you have the 14th day. It happened on the 13th day of Nisan. So you got the 14th, the 15th, Umikta Sayon Kakulo, and a little bit of the 16th. A little bit of the 16th. So what do we see here? We see here, he says that it must be the Ketira Omer, the harvesting of the Omer, which we're looking at. Because if it was the bringing of the Korban Omer, that would give you an extra day. And this whole episode with the hoeing could have taken place even on the 14th day of Nisan, because then I would have the 15th, the 14th itself, part of that day, the 15th, and the 16th and the 16th until morning. Okay, the harvesting of the Omer took place the night before. That's when the harvest is, the night before. They brought it the following day. So if we said that if we say that everything goes by the Ksira Omer, by the cutting of the Omer, so then your 3 days are complete at nightfall on the 16th, right? Because you have the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th. So that those 3 days would have to begin on the 13th. The episode would have to take place on the 13th. But if you get till the next morning, and you have 3 days, including the 16th itself. I'm getting confused. Including the 17th. It's not the 17th. The 16th itself. Right. The 6th in the morning. Right. 6th in the morning. The 6th in the morning. You have to include the 16th. Right. That's right. Otherwise, it would be the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. Right. Right. You'd have the 14th, and the 15th and the 16th at night, you're ready to be able to harvest. I don't know if the Rosh Hashanah takes out 13. It's correct, the 13. I'm putting it back in. So if that, because then what happens on the 13th, so you have the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, right? Mitzvah say, okay, kulo. Yeah, you don't need mitzvah kulo. If anything, I would take out those words. I would take out those words.
If you take out the 13th, then you do need mitzvah.
That's right. It's either or, right? Yeah. Okay. Now, that's all according to Rabbi Yoino. Rabbi Yoino holds that you go by the harvest of the owner. Rabbi Yossi said, Milsad Rabbi Avinu Messiah Li. Rabbi Yossi goes by the bringing of the owner, which is the next morning. He says, I hold like Rabbi Avinu. Rabbi Avinu said, the potter understand that it's talking about Kodem Asis the following Brisa. The only reason they set up this case on the 13th is because it's talking about a place where they don't do Malacha on the 14th. Because there's a minhag not to do Malacha in Erev Pesach. But Taka could have been set up on the 14th, which means he holds like Rabbi Yossi. Then in that case it would have the 14th, the 15th, and part of the 16th. Very good. Okay? It says more, wait a minute. This is off on a tangent, I'll be. More says, wait a minute. In a place where they do Malacha the 14th, lo betolush is not only in objects, things which are severed from the ground. Shema b'mechubar. You're assuming if you do work on the 14th, you even do work on your land? Who says? Maybe you can never do work on your land on the 14th. The only malacha which Chazal permitted you to do is barter, trade and sell, stuff like that, but not land work. Says more no. Ashkechtani, we learned over, this all parenthetical more. Ashkechtani, we learned over. Makav Shinagu Lasas Malacha, good Talush, a place where they do Malacha in stuff which is severed from the ground on the 14th. Osin Afilim B'chuba, you can even do Malacha on stuff which is connected to the ground. Okay. Vim Lav, it wasn't mutter this year, it's Asr Ada Omer Abba. At Sheva Omer Abba, it's also until next Omer. Rabbi Lazar Shah. Lazar has a very interesting question. Mao Shiyavi Omer Mehen. Can you bring the Omer next year? In other words, in carbon year 5759, from grain which grew in 5758, but too late for Pesach of 5758. In other words, grain which took roots only after Pesach this year. Can you use the carbon Omer next year? We'll see. Says Gemara, Efshar Loimar. Chadash v'yoshin ein Torah masim amizeh al zeh. Wait a minute. Of course not. Chadash and yoshin, you can't take from one grain crop to another crop. After all, there are two crops. It's true the Omer wasn't matzah because it was too late, but still that crop. And we have a principle by Truma, you can't take Truma from one crop on another, from one year on another. So what? Efshar loimer chadash yoshin ein determined, so Masri Misel, they can't take Trumas from one on the other. Vata Marta Chayin. And you want to say that you bring next year's carbon Omer from last year's grain? It cannot be. Hey Sivun. Now they also asked another kasha, proving that you can't do this. Hare Shar Minim Hare Tluyim Omer. Other grains other than barley, they also only become mutter when the carbon Omer is brought. Yet, vein over b'me'en, you can't make the carbon Omer of those other grains. So too, I would say that last year's grain, even though it's contingent, since it grew too late on this year's Omer cannot come from that grain, from that barley specifically. Says more, no, that's not comparable. And More's going to ask you a question. Says more, no! Those are excluded altogether from it. This is your question, right? Those are excluded altogether from the Omer. You're comparing apples and oranges. I'm asking about apples. This is the apples which are all mutter in the same Omer. You're comparing apples and oranges. There's no comparison, right? They cannot be brought as omers. Torah v'sarim is supposed to barley. Shekoshu on top of Ham and Alf now. Shekoshu l'minchas omer, which are good for omer. Okay, be that as it may, let's look at Psukim. Chevrai b'shem Rabbi Lezer say, Reish is ketzilcho. Zomer has got to be the beginning of your harvest. V'lo sof ketzilcho, not the end of your harvest. Therefore, last year's crop, it was the end of last year's harvest. It can't be used this year. Rabbi Zira b'shem Rabbi Lezer said, Bikurim. It should be the first. Our Einel Bikurim, so not the first, these are the last. Manavine, what's the difference between these two droshes? Of our for the ever you brought from last year's grain. Al Da'atayim, the Chavrai, according to the Chavrai, who say it can't be Sof Ketzirecha, it can't be the end. It's possible, it's no good even by the ever. Al Da'atayim, the Rabbi Zira, that wanted to have Reishis, alright, kosher. So, Bikurim, I'm sorry. So it's not Bikurim, it's not the best, let's say, but by the ever it works. I'm not sure I understand fully why by the ever works, but that's what he's saying. Okay?
So, Taka, what do you do with such crop? You can't use it?
You owe to your after and use it, but you can't use it for the korban omer. Right, that's all. Right. Okay? Divrei Chachamim. Now, in reconciling, in giving a psak here, the words of Chachamim, Rabbi Yossi Barabun and Rabbi Chia b'Shem Ravim Bar Chia, they determined Ve'ein sheviu shlish l'nei Rosh Hashanah. When is last year's crop not good? When it grew a third before Rosh Hashanah. Amlim maybe shlish achar Rosh Hashanah. If the crop grew a third after Rosh Hashanah, not after Nisan. So then Omer bar man, you can bring the Omer from them. In other words, a crop which was still immature at the beginning of the calendar year and grew mostly in this calendar year, that you can bring as a korban Omer. Okay? Mishnah Halacha Beis. We lost him on the way here. No, but I told him I was leaving. Oh, speaking of the devil. All right. I thought we told you when we were leaving. Okay. Halacha Beis. Page 10 out. Halacha man gazayis matzah of Pesach. He eat a gazayis matzah of grain of any type on Pesach. So once you know there's oat matzah nowadays, as you probably have heard. So the thing is, oat matzah. For people who are rye also, people allergic to wheat. So the thing is that Rabbi Herschel Schechter, based on Professor Felix in Israel, is a big from agronomist, has cast aspersions on the identity of oats as oats. So there's actually some shiur if our oats are the grain oats known to the Talmud. So, there's that some people won't eat oat matzah because of that. Okay, just letting you know that. Nobody here probably has ever eaten any oat matzah. Right? It's bad enough when it comes in the form of oatmeal, right? So who wants it in the form of matzah? Okay, this prevents cancer. Pesach. Yotzi dechavos. V'yikazayis matzah Pesach any of these types you're yotzi your chiv, and the flip side of that is of course kazayis chometz. If you eat a kazayis of chometz of any of them, chayiv b'koris you get koris. Nisarev echon mehem. If echon mehem b'chol midim. Now it's there's a little bit of a cryptic line in the Mishnah, but if one of them, if you have a chometz which gets involved in with chametz of any of them, which gets mixed into any other of them, Harezer Pesach, you're not allowed to keep it in your possession over Pesach. If you keep it in your possession over Pesach, you transgress an Aveira. Somebody takes an oath not to derive benefit from bread and from grain, also man is forbidden to eat them, Divrei Rabbi Meir. Chachamim say, anointed min dogon. Somebody takes an oath not to have benefit from dogon. Eino aser ella mehen. Man, he forbids himself only in grain, not in anything else. And all these things are chayim mechal meiser. Now, Tanakama holds the difference between Tanakama and Meir is that Tanakama holds that if you took an oath to refrain from dogon, that includes also legumes, because legumes also can be made into a bread, into a dagan. Whereas Chacham hold that Dagan specifically applies only to these Chameshus Aminim, not to anything else.
Why is the ratio of the relationship between anything you can learn and the fourth ratio? I mean, we know about it. You're chayiv on the matzah.
I don't know.
Unless it's directly related to the Omer.
No, maybe it's just to preclude rice and millet. I don't know exactly why it's put down here. What it's trying to do. Probably something like that to preclude rice and millet from Pesach. Allow the Sfardim to use rice and millet on Pesach. Okay?
You're saying according to Mary,
Yes.
Doesn't make sense. What's the definition of Dagan?
Anything which can be made into a bread.
Any grain.
You can make cornbread.
Dagan refers to grains. It doesn't mean something which ends up as bread.
That's right.
We can make.
Doesn't have anything to do with grain. The question is what the term of art is. Dagan is a term of art.
You disagree with what the term means. What can I tell you? It's not so bad. We've seen worse. Okay. I'm Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zavdi. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zavdi says, Zoysa Meres. Now, this is a direct contradiction to what we said previously in the Sugya, in the Gemara. We said previously, last night when we had all that old tortured paragraph, we said you combine them all together, it's exempt from Challah. Right? You can't have a combination dough according to Shlosh Chayv and Challah. So how can you Yotzi on Pesach? I'm Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zavdi. It's a smear shaloik and a chlos and Dvar Torah. You should get Malchus on the challah, which comes from a dough, mixes from all five together. That should be the flip side of your Mishnah. That they combine together for matzah, combine together for chometz, should combine for challah as well. And if so, they made you take challah off that and some meats, you should get Malchus Toraisa. Rabbi Yirmiyah B'Shem, Rabbi Chia Bar Vod said, Tipa water. Explain that our Mishnah is talking about Shachal Kizayis Mizeh V'Kizayis Mizeh. You're right. Our Mishnah now we ate a Kizayis of Chametz from all together. Kazayis of Chametz from each one, and Kazayis Matz from each one. You're talking right, the Shurim don't join together to coalesce and fuse into one entity. Rabbi Yisrael said, Afilu Temer Mikul and Kazayis, even if they fused and meshed, you only ate Kazayis of all of them together, you're still Chayiv. Why is that Chametz? Why is that? Shani Yoi, because here it's different. Shekula Shem Chametz. They all became Chametz. They all have a new name. What's their new name? Chametz. There we need a challah of barley, a challah of oats, a challah of spelt, so therefore they don't combine. But here we just need chametz in order to transgress, and that's why they all combine. Says the Gemara, Mechav she tossed in Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi seems to have changed his opinion. Tamro, over there he said, Shnei Dvarim Rabbi Alechem Vatlin so. Two things cancel each other out. Right? Two things over one cancel each other out. And here he says there's no cancellation. You mix them all together. Says the one, you forgot. Rabbi Yesi, Rabbi Bun, Kini Masnisai, Kazayis Mizeh, Kazayis Mizeh. Don't you remember I just told you the name Rabbi Yossi? We're not talking about where you combine them together. We're not talking about where you have two on one. You need a kazayis of each one independently. So kazayis of each one independently, that's why you're chayav. Okay? Now, the truth is, Yerushalmi pointed out, Rabbi Yossi is not the one who said that. That was Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zavdi. Rabbi Yossi is the one who said you can gather together kazayis from all of them together and be chayav. That's why the Gemara says, Mechalfe shitasid Rabbi Yossi. He contradicts himself. In one case he says Yechayiv if you made a mush of all of them together. In the other case he says Yechayiv only if you have exercise from each one independently. Okay? Contradiction. Now, going further, of course, also b'chol karabanan. It sounds clear from Rabbanan that if you take an oath not to refrain from bread or from grain, then it asks you everything. What? No, Rameir holds dogon has to do everything. But Rabbanan, the ones who say, no, I mean a dogon ain't also man. No, Bohen, only in them. So going Rabbanan, what's he also in? There's no in them. So going Rabbanan.
All we extrapolated was not that the Chachamim don't disagree with Rameir. He says no in the past. All we extrapolated was the reverse. If it was a noter and a dogon, what Rameir would say in that case.
Now we're extrapolating the opposite, though. You're right. That's what you said previously. We're now extrapolating the exact opposite. What are we saying now? That when Rabbanan say, somebody takes an oath to refrain from dogon is only an oath in this thing. There must be somebody who takes an oath to refrain from tvu and pas, asers on him, other things besides this. Only those are exclusive to our Mishnah. Anything else could be inclusive. That's what the Gemara is asking.
Doesn't dogon include pas and tvu?
No. Dogon is anything which can be fermented or, what's the word? Leaven. That's right, leaven. So it's not the same thing.
It includes.
What?
It includes. It's not. It doesn't mutually exclude anything else. But it includes pas and tvu.
But it can include anything, right?
Right. There are more things in dogon than there are in pas and tvu. But I would think that pas and tvu are included in dogon.
Oh, I hear what you're saying, Jim.
It's a big difference. I just think,
I don't know if it's true because it's talking about matzah. Dogon is not, it's not included because pas includes matzah. Whereas dogon has to be something which is leavened. So pas and tvu are not included, right? Bread can be even unleavened bread, and tvu can just be toasted grain, which certainly is not a issue of chametz. Right? No, that's not the case. So it says more again. I know you made a passage for us. It's going to be us and everything. Rabbi Chiv Shemiel and said, "Kini Masi is ready to read our Mishnah. Hanoi demina dogan ein also behem. Somebody who takes an oath to refrain from dogon is also only in these things. Only in the 5 meaning. Manakim. What are we talking about? Person says they want to be also that which the Torah called bread. You know what? In that case, even if somebody says they want to be also in the tavua of the Torah, you also bakoil. He should be also in anything in the world. Why is that the seed? It calls the produce of a vineyard tavua. Yet Rabbanan never said if somebody forbids tvu on himself, he's also all food substances in the world. Why not? Right? So it says the Gemara, if it's talking about he didn't ask for the bread as defined in the Torah, but rather generic bread. The only thing which is called bread by people is wheat and barley, not rye, spelt, and all sorts of outlandish breads like you buy in Breadsmith. I just had this great bread yesterday from Breadsmith, focaccia. Very good. So there's olives, little ground up olives, and garlic and basil. So that's not bread according to the Torah. The bread according to the Torah is chitin and siren, right? It's not bread, right? So what's bread and what's dogon? What's going on here? What's bread and what's tvu? I'm sorry. I'm right. This is said kayamti. I explain it like this: where they eat bread, kol of any type, nonetheless. The only thing which is called pas is chameshes haminim. So when Chazal said that's talking about when a person says he wants to be osir in any type of bread. He didn't say pas Torah, right? He said any type of grain, any type of dogan. It's still only chameshes haminim. Stam is assumed to be chameshes haminim, no more, no less. Okay? Stam pas, stam dogon, stam tvua. And even though pas Torah might be more limited, or pas miora might be more limited, those are the parameters we accept. Okay? Halacha Gimel. You know, at time I'm going to get a refill. Every Eluchem Challah. Gives a Chayim Challah, P'turim min ha-meiser, and exempt from meiser. In other words, when does the Chiyuv Challah hit? When you need the dough. So prior to needing the dough, it's exempt from meiser. We'll see a bunch of cases like that. What is that? Haleket, Shicha, Peah, Vahefker, all those, of course, prior to their hitting the dough stage, are all exempt from meisers.
Give meiser when you first harvest it.
Not in Leket, Shicha, and Peah, they're exempt. Of course, but I'm saying here that even though there was no preceding meiser, you're still chayiv in challah. The chiddush is the other direction here. Yeah? That even though they're exempt from meiser, when you get to the challah stage, you have to take off challah. Meiser Rishon shnif the not la trumaso. Meiser Rishon from which the truma has already been taken, trumas meiser. Meiser sheni. The hektish shniftu meiser hektish which are redeemed. Umosa omer, and when the Chazal brought the omer, when the Kohanim brought the omer, there's a lot of grain left over because they used to sift it 13 times. So all that grain is exempt from meisers, but it is chayiv and challah. Tvush levi or shleish grain, which is not yet grown a third of its growth, and he made a food out of it. Rabbi Lezer made tvush levi or shleish, if it hasn't yet grown a third of its growth, and you harvest and eat it, you are an aberrant, deviant individual, and pure patur min challah. Elu chayovim b'meisros. These are exempt from meisros, and patur min challah, exempt from challah as well. Orez, which we commonly understand to be rice. Vadocha, which you commonly understand to be millet. Prapragin, which are poppies. Shumshamin, sesames. Vakidnios, legumes. Upachasmen, chameshes, revoim, betvua, and less than 5/4, 43 and 3/5 beitzim of grain. Hasvogin, suvganim, jelly donuts. Right, they're sponge-like, like a svog. Vaduvshanim, these are flour which is fried in honey. Vaisriska skritin, which is also some sort of aberrant kind of bread. V'chalas mishras, a pancake. V'amaduma, and stuff into which truma got mixed up. All these are parts of minachal, they're all except from challah. Okay? Rabbi Yoshi Shal Kahana. Rabbi Yoshi asked Kahana, how do you know that all these substances are chayiv and challah except for meisers? Amar Leit, so he said, Lo Tamar li truma. It shouldn't say. Now the Mashbiach, the Leib Yerushalmi has a pshat here. I'm sure is what the Ritbaz and the others say, but I'm going to give you the Mashbiach's pshat. Lo Tamar li, don't say to me anything other than Tarimu, to pick up challah. What is v'chein Tarimu? What is v'chein Tarimu? What is the extra word v'chein? It must be that even stuff which is exempt from meiser, you should take off challah from it. The extra word v'chein teaches us that challah should be redeemed no matter what. Okay? So that challah should be taken no matter what. Not redeemed, excuse me. Challah should be taken no matter what. So it says the Gemara, Chazar v'amar, and he came and he gave his Sforah also. From the 40 years when they first entered the land of Israel. The first 14 years they entered the land of Israel, they were chayiv in challah, upturim min ha-meiser, they exempt from meiser. So the cases in our Mishnah, chayiv in challah, they're chayiv in challah, and upturim meiser, they exempt from meiser. Rabbi Yochanan b'shem Rabbi Yana said, these are one of the three instances in which we have a drasha which is explicit in the Torah. What is that? The Levi shall come and get your meiser because he has no portion or allocation with you. And that's why he gets your meiser. That which you got, and he don't got, you gotta give him. Yotze Hefker as opposed to Hefker. Sheyotcha v'yado shavimbo, in which you's got and he's got together. Either you both got or neither of you got. So then you don't have to give him. You don't have to give him what? Yeah, it's supposed to be young in mice, but it's half correct. And wait a second. He leked, he shikha, he pay an after. Leked shikha pay all four of that category.
It's still chayim on chal.
Yeah, still chayim chal, but not meiser. Meiser shnila to masay. Similarly, what's chayim chal and meiser rishon, which your truma's already taken. Chachem, mikayim shenitla truma lav kecholinu. What kind of kiddush is that? This is classic chulin. He already took the truma. The truma's meiser off the meiser. That's what chulin's all about. It's a Levi's chulin. We're not that stupid. We're talking in a Mishnah case where you took off the meiser while still stalks before you took off the truma. If you took meiser rishon before the truma while it still stalks, part of me truma gdoila, you're exempt for taking off truma gdoila taki. Truma's meiser still to take off, but not truma gdoila. So try to say that even according to him, you still have to give chal. Okay? Rabbi Yisrael said, another way of learning the same thing. See if it says, "Es kol chelbei es mikdashei mimenu." Everything which is great, which is splendid, you take and sanctify from it. Lo chelbo lo chelu chaver, not that which is yours and your friends. So what do you mean by that? I forgot. Oh, yeah. That means it's going on Trumas Meiser. It says, "As kol chobo," the best which you got, meaning the Levi, as me to show him a consecrated part of it to give to the Kohen. So that's only Trumas Meiser. Lo chobo v'chel chaber, but not Truma Gedola, not the bona fide Truma. Because whose responsibility is that? Who has to give that chelev, that select portion to the Kohen? Not the Levi. That's the Yisrael's responsibility. If he didn't do it, you don't have to do it. So that's why we have it. These are both Russians to indicate that Meiser Sheni, which was given before Truma was given, the Levi is exempt. He doesn't have to make sure the Meiser Sheni, the Truma has to be given. Rabbi Yoina, it should be. Rabbi Yoina says, see if it says. Yeah, it's a typo. I'm not sure why they change it, but they change it. The same type of thing, though. Rabbi, it says, it says a Levi should take Trumas Hashem a tenth from the tenth. But lo Truma u'maser mina maser. But not a tenth plus Truma from the Meiser. There's another way of learning that the Levi is exempt from giving Truma once he got Meiser Rishon. He only has to give Trumas Meiser, but not the Levi. What?
First Russia
The first was Rabbi said, then we changed this one? Okay, that's good. Okay. Says the Mele, B'shmira, that's only that the time that first you did Miruach on your Meiser Rishon, and then you smoothed over the pile, and then you took off Trumas Meiser on it. It's Trumas Meiser, but if you took Trumas Meiser off before you did Miruach, now it's not only did you take Meiser Rishon off before, while still stalks, but you also took Trumas Meiser off while still stalks. In that case, you're not exempt from taking off Truma as well. Why? Because these premature activities on your part do not preempt the chiyuv to give Truma. Okay? Only if they're after only the smoothing, right. It says Gemara, Shehifresh mimenu. This is also about when you exempt from giving Truma Gedola, only when you already set it aside the Truma Meiser from this batch internally. Olav on it. Avlihifresh mokom acher, but you took it somewhere else. Lo bedah. In that case, I don't exempt you. Meaning, in that case, you still have to take off the Truma Gedola because it's accumulated with Rabbah Minay. Where you have the greater penalty of Trumas Meiser affixed to your activities. We don't affix the lesser penalty, so to speak, of regular Truma. But that means it has to be affixed inherently and not extrinsically. And therefore, it has to be you're taking a tenth off internally. Then you don't have to fix on any additional surcharge on top of that. Okay. Meiser Shei Viktish Sheniftim. Meiser Shei and Iktish are redeemed or exempt from Challah. No, exempt from Meiser. Chaim and Challah. Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Yisir, and Rabbi Bar Chava, Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Yisir, Rabbi Chava, Rabbi Ukva, Rabbi Hillel ben Halis say. See, you did it. My limited sports background, it actually took me a couple of seconds to realize what I said. Okay. I still don't remember what team he was the coach of, but I know it was football, right? Wasn't he the coach?
Bears.
Oh, Bears. Okay. Ready? Rabbi Hillel ben Halis Mata Bar B'Shem Rabbi Yehuda. He learned this in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, what do we learn in the name of Rabbi Yehuda? The following statement: To mean Hadar, from here we derive Ma'aser Sheni Shekdimu B'Shibolim, Ma'aser Sheni which you preempted and gave while it was still stalks before Miruach, before smoothing the pile. Patim B'Truma Gedolah is exempt from Truma Gedolah. Why is that? Because at the time when let's explain. Rabbi Yonah said perhaps that's commanded by Enoch in a Chasav, that's like the opinion which says it's not your property. So when you made it Ma'aser Sheni, you already propelled it, so to speak, out of your property into the property of Hashem. So therefore, you continue to be parted from giving truma on it, right? You give truma on your own crop. Once you made a Ma'aser Sheni, it's always yours. It's true you have control over it, but it's Hashem's. So therefore, you don't set aside truma anymore. Huh? It is yours. You made a Ma'aser Sheni before not while it's growing. After you cut up, before Miruach.
What does it mean here?
You see when B'Shibolim? Before you did Miruach. Before Miruach.
So isn't that a legal loophole?
Yeah, well, it's a legal avera, but it's a legal loophole. Yes. I don't know. You can flog him for that. You take Meitzers out of order, we flog you, but it gets out. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yonah boy command again. Rabbi Yonah boy command ma'inu k'lechasav. B'chad command k'lechasav u'chayev. Amar lei. So that Rabbi Yonah posited to one of these people we just mentioned before. So that person, I don't remember who said what, posited back. Amar lei afana savarkein. I also wanted to say that, but it's wrong. However, it says have, but it really should be hare. Hare ma'aser rishon. It says Ma'aser Sheni, really should be Ma'aser Rishon. Look, Ma'aser Rishon, everybody agrees that you keep it. At least the Levi keeps it yet. Nonetheless, belonging to God. Because Ma'aser Rishon does not belong to God. Even that, if you preceded the Miruach with taking off Ma'aser Rishon, you're still exempt from taking off Truma Gedolah. Okay? So we see it must be some other svara. Not because it belongs to God, you no longer take control of Truma Gedolah, but some other svara which the Gemara has not properly expounded. And guess what, folks? I don't think it ever will. Okay? Says Gemara further.
But the Levi's not, you wouldn't think...
No, the Levi has to take off Truma Gedolah. Of course it's responsible. Why should it not be responsible? It's Tevel. You're thinking of it as a personal responsibility, but it's Tevel here. We're dealing with Tevel. Right, but it's not. The object itself requires tikkun. That's the issue here. Okay. Says Gemara. This is a new issue. Madam Archayev. The person who holds, it's not new, it's related, but we had a full stop a moment ago. The Madam holds that a Ma'aser Rishon, which you preceded and took while it was still stalks, is chayev. You take of truma, hafilu truma shabo chayeves. So he holds that even on the part which you're taking of trumas meiser, right? Even on the tenders going trumas meiser, the trumas will also go on that, right? Manmar Potter, he who says that Potter, you're exempt from taking off truma gedolah once you says on Ma'aser Rishon prematurely. Afilu chulin shabab turim, even the chulin in the Ma'aser Rishon is exempt from truma. In other words, there's no division between the part of the Ma'aser which remained Ma'aser Part became Trumas Meiser, either both Chayav or both exempt. Madamar Chayav, he who says that you're Chayav regardless, you have to take off Truma G'dayla still. Also, Trumas Meiser Mokamachar, according to him, what if you took this entire Meiser, Levi took this entire Meiser, and instead of taking 1/10 of his Trumas Meiser, made this entire Meiser, Trumas Meiser, and something else? Does that at least exempt him from giving Truma G'dayla? No, it's maybe Truma G'dayla the Levi has to give when his Meiser did not become completely Truma. But here he made his entire Meiser, Trumas Meiser, and something else. In that case, does he still have to take off? Truma to a Kohen, right? Mat avilei. What are we talking about? What's the halacha in that case? Furthermore, we have a question like this. Mat avilei is actually to what do we compare it? What do we compare it to? Begadi shenidma or beisa shenidma? Do we liken it to a haystack which got mixed in with some truma, or do we liken it to a dough which got mixed in with some truma? And we'll explain what that is in a minute. Rabbi Yochanan said, I already asked this question. Rabbi Yochanan, so I already asked this question. Says more, okay, you're very happy. You both asked the question. Now, Ma ben Godish, Shenidma, Lisa Shenidma, what's the difference? Where the truma fell in. Whether the truma fell into the grain or fell into the dough. I'll tell you what the difference is. Gadish shenidma. If you have a mixture, a pile of grain in which some truma got mixed in, at Omar Chayev, the halacha is you still have to take off truma on the rest of the grain. Right? Some truma fell in, became a duma. It was less than a shiur. I mean, it was more than a shiur. It wasn't bottom. But you still only have to take off truma, right? Adom Rechayev. Isa shenidma. If you have a dough which got mixed with a little bit of truma, so then Adom Rechayev you don't have to separate challah from it. Okay, so this is the halacha. The halacha is that if you have a little bit of truma which got mixed into a lot of tevel, you still have to take off truma for the tevel which is there. You have a little bit of truma which got mixed into a lot of dough, you don't have to take off any challah. Okay? We give the whole dough a status. If it's truma, we don't take off any challah from it. So Shaila is, remember this lady who made his entire batch of meiser, trumas meiser, what's its status? Is it like the gadish shenidma, the pile of grain in which some truma grain fell in, which is still chayim and truma, and so too the same, it's still be chayim and truma, or is it like the case over there where we have the isur shnidma, where a little bit of truma fell into a dough, that now the dough is exempt from challah altogether for all time. So to here we would say that where the Levi made his entire meiser rishon trumas meiser, so there's no truma anymore to give, and therefore it's exempt for all time.
Isa Shenima, that whole dough is considered truma, has to be given to the Kohen?
No, he can sell the parts to the Kohen which were definitely not truma, but he can't identify which they are, so he can't separate them.
So everything is being sold.
Sold, yeah, right.
So it's really right?
Yeah. Okay. Says a lot further. Gadish sheni. We just did. Right. Tanchu Hashem Rabbi Chuna said, Vava Beis. Gadish shenidma. A pile of grain which became mixed in with truma. Actual nidma. Before, what happens before it got mixed in? Avar v'yivish menu truma. It took off truma, although there was no miruach yet. It still stalks. Shouldn't have taken off the truma. Not in that case. Now here the Gra changed of girsa. Harei zeh truma. Despite the fact he did it prematurely, it's still valid truma. Isa shenima, along the lines of the reason what you just mentioned a moment ago. If you have a dough which kind of makes a little bit of truma, achelo nidma, before it.
Why do you have to wait?
Doesn't make sense.
that we know that in the Aseret Tevivos, the Lashon here is Al Har Sinai. In the Aseret Tevivos, when it says L'Signal, it's not referring to money, it's referring to going into functions. Right? But it's referring to kidnapping, right? But the halacha is only by mammon, where you go and steal money, you don't have the money to pay it back, then you become an editor. It's a different word. Entirely. So what's the connection to Har Sinai at all?
So let me go back a line. Rabbi Tanchum Shem Rabbi Chuna, just the top of on base. Gadish and Nidba. If you have a Gadish, a part which got mixed a little bit of truma.
No, the Lashon here.
Achulon Nidma.
And if you look really, the Lashon here that we talk about.
What does it mean Achulon Nidma? Yeah, we're saying Achulon Nidma.
Because really, when we talk about Har Sinai, we're talking about really what was said in Har Sinai. You gave an answer. Because that's just an example that we use to tell us about
what? Yeah, maybe saying like that. Gadish Nima, if you can't mix it with Truma, but Achulon Nidma over Vishmena Truma, before it became Nidma, you took off Truma. In that case, I say, again, the Gra changed gears, so I raise the Truma. The Truma doesn't lose its status as valid Truma. It was whatever took place prior to the admixture of Truma to anything else, that retains its flavor even afterwards. And that makes sense, the next line. Of Isa Nidma, and Isa which got mixed up, Achalo Nidma, but before it got mixed up with Truma, Avram Ishmael and Chali separated Chavmet, ain't a challah. That's not valid challah. The incident we learned there, Amavish challah kemach ain't a challah. You can't take off challah until it's dough. And here tell you prematurely, when it's still flour, it's not valid challah altogether. Truma taken off before miruach, it's valid truma. B'di'evet. And challah taken off before the dough is valid dough. It's not even b'di'evet. And if the Kohen takes it, the Gezel be our Kohen, and the Kohen is a thief. I think we'll start here.